Hey everyone, and welcome back to another NintendoFuse GameChat. And on this one, we're going to be talking all about Umamusume Pretty Derby Party Dash. Pretty Derby Party Dash is not only a game that it's struggle for me to pronounce, but it's also a game that I have no idea what it was when I was going into it. But it basically takes place during the Tracen Academy's time-honored festival, the Slap Dash Grand Prix, which includes 4 zany events: hurdling hurdles, blazing baskets, dodgeball demolition, and gourmet gauntlet. And players can pick a team from pixelated roster of fan favorite Usamume and conquer all 4 events and take home the trophy. So there's a big narrative that goes along with this entire game, but along the way you get to play these games, and you can also play them online if you can find anybody to actually play against. And there's some other aspects of the game as well. We'll get into my favorite part in just a little bit, but of course we have Barry and Greg here with me to talk all about this game. So let's go over to you first, Greg. What'd you think of this game?
Well, like you, I didn't really get a chance to try the online mode, so it was mostly just playing through the story mode. I did select like the first team that was like recommended. Usually, you would think it would be one of the first ones you'd want to jump into, but I actually tried that level a handful of times, and I actually wasn't able to beat the CPU. So I did notice like the stats of that team, they were running like an S plus on speed, and it was like a racing one through hurdles. You had to go through like this obstacle course and like kind of just jump through and hit different checkpoints and everything. So that was surprisingly a lot more difficult than it was just to like, at least beat the AI. So I couldn't even imagine trying to play against another player that would probably be even more advanced than that. I did try for other reasons just to check like other story modes just to kind of see if the games were different, and thankfully the second one down was much easier and actually allowed you to change to different character, like the players on your team. Instead of just forcing you to just use one, you actually got to select between a few other ones. It definitely gave you one to recommend, which was always appreciated based on that player's stats. But then I was actually able to enjoy the dodgeball elimination mode, and that one was surprisingly very easy compared to the hurdle jumping one that I did. So I had no problems completing that one at all. I was able to easily take down the other 2 AIs in that mode and got easily an easy first place. And then I continued on to the next game in that storyline for like the Team Frezzies or whatever I think that one was called. And then that one was another surprisingly easy game there too. So like I don't know if it was just like that one team was recommended kind of unusually at the top, where it was a lot harder to play through the hurdle mode, or if it was just that I just was luck of the draw and I got the picked the wrong one to start with. So that was kind of eye-droppingly different to see the difficulty levels so extreme between the 3 different games that I played, and I played. It felt like the hardest one at the front, when normally you'd expect that would be further down in the challenges. So, what I did play, it seemed like it was somewhat like enjoyable. Like I did enjoy the time with the other 2 ones that I was like slaughtering the AI in, but it was definitely didn't seem quite very balanced to easily take on the hurdle matches, that other team, because that one was difficult even after several tries. First one is usually you just chalk it up to like you weren't familiar with like the course and you didn't know where to go, and still kind of doing that. And then obviously this on subsequent tries you kind of have that feeling with it. And even on that note, like it does show you like the strategies and try to tell you like, oh, if you hit the like these certain areas, you can get like boosts in speed and everything there too. But unlike games like other party games like Mario Party, or even like the Mario and Sonic at Olympic Games, they at least tell you the controls, so you don't even know what to expect when you're jumping into each of these games. You have to just kind of hopefully figure it out within the short amount of time frame. So it doesn't say like, oh, hit A to boost, or use B to do this, or Y to do this. Like it doesn't even explain any of that to you, and you just have to just kind of fumble right into the first race or whatever, and not even understanding like what controls do what. So that was
Yeah.
also kind of disappointing to see there too.
Yeah, so I echo completely with the controls thing. I had no idea what I was doing. And when I went to the controls in the menu, they gave me like generic controls and was like, this usually does this or usually does that. I want game-specific controls. What am I doing? So, like you, I started the story. I went to the first one, did the race, and lost. And I was like, they did not just beat me the first time, but I didn't know anything. Let me go back through, and I went through and I beat them the second time. And I was like, okay. Then I went to the next one, and it was the cooking, eating thing where you had to play as a server, and that kicked my butt too. And I'm like, oh my god, this is this the whole game gonna be like kicking my butt? So I played it again and beat it, and then I did the dodgeball, and it was polar opposite. Like I could have like had an aneurysm, and I still would have destroyed them. Like the AI just like took a nosedive. I had to do the cooking one again, and at that point I was like, do I really want to do this again? So I checked, and you can skip. You can skip an entire chapter. You can just press a button and win the game, but you don't get any points. You don't get like, the accumulated points for winning. But I'm like, now I'll do the cooking again. I did the cooking again, and then I finally got to do basketball because I wanted to do them all. And basketball was fun, probably the most fun. But again, the AI was like brain dead. I think I won like 300 to 20. And that 20 was their first basket because I had to figure out what was shooting. I was like, how do I knock the ball out of their hands? Because I didn't know the controls. It was all trial and error. So I got to chapter 6, and I was like, I've had enough of this story mode. I feel like these characters, maybe they exist elsewhere and there's a fandom for them. I have no idea who they are. They have the most screwed up names in the history of screwed up names that I've ever seen. I have no attachment to these characters. I get there's drama, but it definitely has like that bond, girl power kind of deal, which is great. But there's also some sneaky stuff. Like there's one character that was like constantly sleeping on my team, and they were like, "Oh, she's lazy," and she was always just sleeping in another area. And then it turns out that when playing basketball, she was sleeping near the basketball arena and like really spying on the other teams. So then we played them and we destroyed them. And she was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I've been spying on you this whole time. I haven't been slacking off." I'm like, "Oh, we've got some underhanded things here. I'm waiting for the slap fights to start." I really want to know what school, like actual says, let's sanction off this eating competition, because like the amount of food these girls are eating and gaining zero weight, I want to know what's secret. Because at one point in the story, like one of the servers was like, "I can't do this anymore. Like just seeing you is disgusting," and I'm like, "You called it out. Thank you for calling this out because this is insane." So at that point, I tried online. I couldn't find anybody. Then you have another mode where you can decorate your room, your classroom. And I was like, oh, this is where all this currency comes from. And I didn't mess around too much with that. I didn't care to decorate. That was when I was playing. But I did get the most important thing that everyone should buy, which is the game console. And by doing that, I unlocked the absolute best mode in this game. That
Absolutely.
was a hell of a lot of fun, and
Absolutely.
that is literally a Vampire Survivors Scarlet Towers style, survival game where you have to you race in
Yep.
a line. You get to move between four rows, and as you level up, you're constantly getting auto attacking moves, and you're trying to get to 1,000 meters and 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. And that I was having a blast. I was like, this is fun. You get equipment. You pick up which equipment you want to equip. You get to take it all too. So every run you get new equipment. You could upgrade yourself. I'm like, this is great. Why is this an unlockable mode? The whole game should have been this. I much
True.
rather play this than the other game. This game was fun. So Steve, you've also had the similar experience I'm taking. It's all you tell us
Oh
yours
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. I booted up, and so I am not, again, like I said earlier, Unamumusei. It's hard to pronounce, but also I knew nothing about it. So apparently it's an iOS and Android game. There's also an anime that's attached to it. All these other things, and so it's Pretty Derby is like their normal thing. But then they have this Party Dash is like an extra thing. And so if you do pay attention to the story a little bit, it kind of explains, oh, this is something new that they're not really expecting it. But the problem was, I don't know what you guys like. The fact that you played 6 chapters, Barry, is just astonishing to me.
Yes, I did.
Because I set that thing on auto advance, and I tried to read along. And number one, it was going so slow, but I didn't care
I didn't
at
know
all.
auto.
It's
It should say.
mostly just like static screens one character talking, another character talking, another character talking, another character talking, and it's about mostly stuff I don't care about, and I just let it go and let it go. I played, quote unquote, played for 1 hour, and I played the dodgeball first, which was interesting because I guess I picked a different team than you guys. So dodgeball first, and then the eating one, and then back to dodgeball again. And at that point, and I'd beaten all of them, piece of cake, no problem at all. But sitting through all of these different like chapters and dialogue that I didn't care about, I was like, I don't care if like I tried to play online, couldn't find anything because I was like, I'll do the hurdle thing and the basketball thing. I'll play online. That'd be fine. I don't have to worry about the story that I'm not invested in. Can't play anybody online. Nothing's popping up at all. And so finally, I scrolled around and found Golshi's Grand Adventure 2. And that is where I've been sitting most of the time in this game because that thing is a blast. Like it's so much fun to play. I beat the first, I think, 3 pretty easily. I'm on the 4th one, and it is frustrating me so much because I've gotten one time I got right to the very, very end and I died. And another time I got right to the very end with just a little bit to go and the time ran out. Like, dang it. And so like I haven't beat the 4th section yet. But that's a blast. Like you, I couldn't care less about this story mode. I'm sure it's a blast for other people that are invested in this world. The mini games are kind of weird. Just the hodgepodge of like basketball, dodgeball, that totally makes sense. But eating contest and some running hurdle thing, whatever. But then all of a sudden, this Golshi's Grand Adventure 2 is, I don't think it's worth the entire price of the game.
No.
But they should just release it by itself for sure. So, Greg, did you get a chance to play the Golshi's Grand Adventure?
No, I ended up buying the console because I didn't realize there was a locked mode that was behind stuff, and so like I was trying to check out my design thing, and then I was kind of looking through the categories, and I saw oh, here's a game console, and I thought I remembered seeing something on the main menu for like, oh, buy the game console, and something like this will happen. So I did end up firing up that mode. I almost thought it was just going to be a subsequent, like, completely different thing, and now I'm kind of sad that I missed out on trying to cover that portion for this thing. So, like, I did see like also part of the design aspect is you can use all those points and stuff to get tickets, and then you can get new players for your team. Which obviously we didn't play enough of the game to even accumulate that massive amount of points to get those tickets, but I did at least see like that kind of reference, and I also saw like you get some stuff just by playing whatever chapter, like 7, and then I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to be dedicated enough to even want to reach chapter 7 after like the difficulties with the hurdle one. But
you skip them all.
Well, now we know. Like I didn't try to skip them either. I just put it on auto and I ignored it until the game popped up.
Yeah, just push start and hit. You could skip the text just to go right to the game. You can skip the game as if you won, or you could skip the entire chapter and just push a button, skip chapter, and move on. They knew.
Yeah. They should. And then then you basically you should go through and then get all your coins and points and everything just by playing Gulshies.
Oh no, that mode really like it took me for a surprise because I was done. I was like, I'm good. I feel I have enough to cover. Oh, it's unlockable. Let me just mess around with this for 5 minutes, and I probably spent a good 45 minutes on that, just having fun with it. And I was like, oh my god, like where was this the entire time? Because I wanted to cover all 4 games because there's 4 games, and I wanted to play them all. And I will say against the AI, the dodgeball is a snooze fest. The AI is dumb. Basketball has some really cool ideas because sometimes there's double baskets and they're moving, and if you shoot at a certain time, you can get into the first basket and it falls down into the other baskets, which I like that. Really cool. And there's special balls that do different things. Dodgeball has special balls as well. The eating thing is just chaotic and dumb. And the hurdles through the streets, it was fun, but again, it was chaotic and dumb. I can see if you have 4 people locally and you're all playing, wanting something stupid, I could see it being good. Like against the AI, it's terrible. But with real people, I could see it being some chaotic fun. But everyone needs to know what's going on. There's a lot that's not explained. There's a lot of like different special moves, and obviously with the different characters, rosters, building out your team, it makes sense. But it's just there's a lot, and going into this, seeing this game boot up with Psy Games, I love Psy Games. I will say that they made Dragalia Lost. They made Shadowverse on the Switch, which is phenomenal. They've made some great games. So I was like really excited. Arc System Works. I was like, oh, we're cooking with fire here. Let's go. And then playing the game, it was just didn't feel good. It didn't control well. It was loose. It, and I feel there's a good game here, but I almost feel like it's a mobile game. I
Mhm.
feel like, and because halfway through the story that I was playing, I felt these characters are established. This is like the equivalent of watching like Mario and Link and Sonic and Pac-Man all have a conversation, and if you've never played any of those games, the conversation means nothing to you. But if you played all those games, this is the greatest conversation in the world. I felt like someone going into like Avengers Endgame with never watching anything else and having no idea what the hell's going on because I don't know who any of these characters are, nor do I care. So I get it. I get it. Just not for me.
Mhm.
But if you are obsessed with this Umamusume or Musame or whatever the hell you say it world, you'll probably love this game. You'll probably like this is the greatest game since sliced bread, and that's great for you. If you're if you've never played those games, you probably won't care. But I will say it's worth beating one event to get the coins to get that game console because that game is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the game is $44.99 for the regular version, but if you also want the team bundle thrown in, you can get it for $59.99. Both digital. I don't. Is there a physical version of this game, Barry?
There's a physical in Japan and in Asia that does have English, so you can import that physical version. Yes.
All right. You're getting basically 4 party games that you can play locally or online or against the AI in the story mode. And then you get this special Golshi's Grand Adventure 2. So it's a fairly steep price for not a lot of game there, especially if you're not really bought into this entire world. Greg, what do you think?
Unfortunately, I would probably say have to pass. But unless like you're like what Barry was alluding to, and like a huge fan of like these series, then yeah, that you probably already even have this game at the time of this recording. But or if you at least have some knowledge of any of these, then it could be easily justifiable or even at a discount. But I don't think I could recommend this without a major discount because a lot of people are going to be going into it, one, not knowing the characters, but two, there's only whatever 5 different main games if you count that other one that we played, and they're not like super in-depth games. Like they're on the level of like whatever like a Wii Sports type game. It's like very simplistic and very basic, and it's heavily repeated, and it's not a lot of different versions of each of those games. That they just can tweak the difficulty levels and whatever. So it's almost like you're playing the same 4 or 5 games, and that's I don't. And to me, that doesn't seem like it's worth the asking price of that amount.
Like Greg said, if you're a fan of this series and you've been playing the series on mobile, then you've probably already bought this, and it's worth it to you to see these stories with these characters that you're already established with. If you have no idea, you've never heard of this before, this is the first time experiencing these characters in this world, I can't, in good conscience, say it's worth the price. However, on a discount, I do think the Great Adventure is absolutely worth $10 or less. I think you can get a lot of entertainment out of it, just that mode, and then you get the other stuff for free. But that's honestly all I could recommend, unless you really like these 4 party games. They all look entertaining to you, and you don't mind doing them over and over and over and over again. In which case, by all means.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. If you're really bought into this world and you want another story, that's really cool because there's a lot of story here. There's not a lot of game. There's a lot of story, and if you're really into it, go for it. But I'd say for the rest of you, go ahead and skip out on this one. There are better ways to spend that much money. But if I may, Games, if you're watching this later, I highly recommend you pulling out Golshi's Grand Adventure 2 as a spin-off game on the eShop, and it will go like gangbusters because it is worth it on its own.
Yeah. Even $5. I think Vampire Survivors is $5. So if you do that and pose this as a competitor to that, I think you'll do fine. Like I think there's a lot of bang for your buck on that, especially if you add to it. Like there's only I think 5 levels, but if you you enhance it and you go farther or you do alternate paths or something like that, absolutely. I think
It's true.
there's something to be made there.
And then you do have the endless mode that is there too. So just go as far as you can, compete online with top scorers and everything. I think you got yourself a real winner on your hands with that extra mode that you threw in right there. But
Yeah,
not worth the whole $45 to $60 for just that mode, though. Well, thanks to Cygames for providing us codes to be able to get this review out to you all. And if you enjoy this sort of thing, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube for game chats, also our bi-weekly podcast, interviews, game videos, and so much more. Also, be sure to check out NintendoFuse.com. Thanks, Barry and Greg, for joining us for this game chat, and we'll see you guys next time.